Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to share with you some clips and conversations from a recent live event where myself, Jim Morgan, and DarkestNyte were hanging out, and we were talking about getting to know one another, our origin stories here in Splinterlands, and cryptocurrency broadly. As well, we talk about both surviving the bear market that we're in right now and the tensions that seem to be really bubbling to the surface during this bear market, but also the posture and opportunity for Splinterlands to strike during the next bull market. I really thought this was an exciting conversation. I think you guys will too. Make sure you stick around, stay tuned, like and subscribe. Have an amazing day. God bless. Hey guys, Infidel1258 here, hanging out with Jim Morgan. I got DarkestNyte in the room too.
How's it going?
Guys, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. And you?
So good. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being so kind and friendly at Splinterfest too, at the pizza place and outside of there, and even that encouragement when the FAQ portion, the frequently asked questions at the town hall. Knight grabs me and he's like, "You gotta come on, get over here." He's like, "You gotta come ask a question," and I was like, "Dude, I just walked in. I don't even know what's going on." But no, you're very friendly, man. Thanks for that.
I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. I do appreciate that as well.
Yeah. And Jim, thanks for coming out too. We missed you last night.
It's always fun.
But we knew you had some obligations over there at Hobbies and Happiness headquarters.
Yep. Had to get a little bit of we didn't really do so much recording, but preparing for this weekend.
So guys, thanks for coming, and everybody, thanks for coming who's out there. So Knight, tell me something more about yourself. We met at Splinterfest, and I've heard about you through the grapevine. It's called After Dark. Is that what it's called?
Oh, so that's one of the jokes, right? Is people in our stream, they have different names that they call us, right? So After Dark,
Darkest Sound.
Yeah, Darkest Sound, whatever name you could figure out. People just throw it in chat, and we kind of joke about that.
Yeah. Tell me something more about where you come from, okay. DarkestNyte. What's your path that led you to this place? Tell me something about yourself that I won't know.
Okay, well, cool. So I've been gaming, really for about 40 years. So I'm in early gaming, VIC-20, Commodore 64, Commodore PET computers, everything from back in the early 80s. Got into computers at a really young age. So, just the basics, right? Dungeon and Dragons player back then, before we had any kind of major games.
Cool.
Did that for years. And so, I did that until really about the 90s. In the 90s, computer gaming really started taking off with some really good quality stuff. At the same time, I found a game called Magic the Gathering. That was back in the 90s too. I think I started.
Oh, my man.
Yeah, back in beta 3, right? So still have my cards. So fast forward, I have kids, married, but my kids originally, I taught them how to play D&D, but the problem with D&D is it takes a long time, right? You have you have to have some time investment, right? You have to be able to sit there through a couple of modules, gaming and prep and all that stuff. So one day I just said to them, I said, "Hey, would you guys like to play Magic?" And so they kind of looked at me and I said, "Yeah, it's a game. It's like D&D, but faster." And that's the best way I could describe it. Well, they loved it. And then we really got into trading card games together, right? We just played together. We would hit the tournament circuit, and we would just mess them up. But then COVID came, and so at that point we could not go to Friday Night Magic anymore. But I played a bunch of Magic Arena, right? Because it's online, pretty much similar sets and things like that. But the problem was I'm pretty aggressive when I play. Like, I want to win, and so my buddies said to me, "You know what? You win too much. We're not playing anymore."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "What?" So literally on that day, this is December 2020. I happened to see a Brave ad for Splinterlands.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, that kind of looks like magic.
Mhm.
And I tried it out. I bought a spell book, and the rest is absolute history.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was just getting into crypto at the time too, right? So it's like, wow, I can own the assets. I can, when I win, I get crypto. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
And yep. And so I mean, and it was interesting because I wasn't really familiar with the community at all, right? Because I was just playing a game, right? Playing a game, and I would recognize a few names every now and then. I wasn't part of a guild, and but there was so much I didn't know, right? I mean, it's a hard game to really just pick up and just
Hmm.
start playing. It took me 6 months just to realize that you could even level up a card. I didn't
Yeah.
even know,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
I was
wow.
playing in bronze, and I was like, okay, this is great. And then I started to slowly figure it out. And really, how I figured out a lot of it was watching your channel.
Is that right? Hey, nice.
And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean level up a card? And I even remember the episode you were talking about the importance of summoners and how that was a thing that you had to level up first. This was maybe about a year ago. And I was like, what do you mean level up summoners? And then, so once I started doing my investigation, I was like, oh my God. So then I just started buying assets like crazy. They were pretty cheap. And then we all know what happened last August, or really the summer last year.
Yeah.
Everything just took off. And that was a complete surprise. So, but really, if there's something you'd want to know about me, I love two splinters, Death and Dragon.
Cool.
They bounce back and forth. Dragon probably the most. And I play every day. I mean, I love the game. It's kept me wildly entertained more than any other game I've ever played in the last 40 years, easily.
Yeah. That's really cool. I feel so much of what you said there, including just like seeing something special in this game that I enjoyed in other games. And I didn't have some of the background that you talked about, but I have been gaming forever. And
Yeah.
I'm 41 and I've been gaming since I was 5 years old.
Nice.
And got my first Nintendo. I still remember we were coming home from the Toys R Us, and my mom and dad bought me a Nintendo, like a normal 8-bit Nintendo. And
Yeah.
Original
saw it.
NES.
it was NES. Yeah, it was in Christmas time, and they had all the bags, and I guess they figured I was 5 years old. I'd never know. But I was a smart little curious kid, and I just was like, those are probably gifts. I'm gonna look. And I saw a Nintendo, and I was like, "You got me a Nintendo." And mom and dad were like, "No, it's just
What?
for." Mom and dad were like, "We rented it for you. You get it for the weekend, and then we got to bring it back." And I was like, "No way! It's not for rent. You bought it, and like it's gonna be." And I remember this I remember I was such a smug little a-hole of a 5-year-old kid. Like, I imagine if that was my kid now, I'd be like, "Oh, you little bugger! Like, you caught me. I'm embarrassed." Like. And they know that I know it's going to be there on Christmas morning, and they're like, they almost don't want. I'm sure Dad was probably like, "Oh, I'm going to return it." But yeah, it was my first console, and
Right.
so
But being a parent yourself,
yeah,
you know that keeping things away from kids is near impossible.
I know.
So,
I know. The funny thing, people don't know this. If you don't have kids, you don't know this, but they're so much smarter than you actually would ever give them credit for. You think, oh, they're just kids. They're just, 5, they're just 6 or whatever. They're actually super smart. And one of the things I've noticed about children, I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old. I have a nephew who's 12, 11 or 12. I have a niece who's, I think, 3, and a nephew who's 1. And so I've got like a wide range. And one thing I think I can say confidently is that they're far more devious than we give them credit for. They make all kinds of choices that are deeply thoughtful and like extracting, like exploring limits of, for instance, how much you love me. Like, are you going to get mad at me if I ask this question another time and another time and another time? They are manipulating a situation to explore the limits of it, and that is indicative of like real intelligence,
yes.
even at a very young age. So I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but I definitely agree with what you're saying. You can't hide anything from them, even at a young age.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
So when did you start playing the game? I'm curious about that.
yeah, that was well, Infidel 1258 was my first account. And I can click on this. I always forget, to be honest. Let's see, January 2019. So
Wow.
2020, all of 2019, all of 2020, 2021. So am I at 4 years? I'm like, am I past 4 years? All of 2019, all of 2020, 2021, 2022 is not over yet. Okay, so yeah, so like 3.5-ish years, and
Nice.
and I came to it through Steam, through blockchain technology, and being curious about, really in 2008, seeing what happened with the financial crisis and recognizing that these bankers and these powers that be are not going to stop trying to kind of manipulate the economy through printing. I didn't know all of this at that moment, but what I did know is the stock market was tumbling. I worked for a bank at the time. My stock went from $35 to $3, and we had been paying. We'd been rewarded with that stock for many years, so it was a substantial amount of money, and it just evaporated. And I thought to myself, what's going on? Like, we're a good bank, we're a solvent bank, and it gave me this glimpse into like true valuation, how the stock market works, too big to fail, and that whole narrative, which you'll remember. And
Yep.
and that just got me thinking, like, wow, this is all this is built on a foundation of sand, and I need to look for something other. And started going down the rabbit hole of precious metals, like understanding gold and silver for many years, and still am. And then found Bitcoin somewhere along the way, which led me to Steam, which was the predecessor to Hive, which led me to this game.
Yep. So very similar backgrounds there. I realized the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, this and again, a lot of the fears that you might have had, back then are now fully realized
Oh yeah.
in, what's happening now around the world, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I sleep better at night, having, something in a wallet. I too am into, it's dabbled in precious metals and that stuff.
Yeah.
It will be, we don't know what the future holds, but even if we have a major downturn, I would expect, there'll be a rebuilding, right? And we'll need assets to be able to take advantage of it. And who
Mm-hmm.
knows, those assets might be Splinterlands cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot cool
Exactly.
if it was.
Oh, wouldn't it be wild if, I mean, frankly, if this game, that I think if there is a predictable, thing on the horizon that could be significantly concerning to us, I would argue it would be like a serious Great Depression. Because this game's amazing, and it really is. I've said it's kind of like a money tree before, but it's this really trivial reward daily that can snowball meaningfully over a long time. And I believe all that's true. And yet, I think you could simultaneously say all that's true. And yet, if we go into a true Great Depression, that maybe that translates to, a tightening of every belt, and like a disconnect with like this sort of entertainment, even though it's great and even though it rewards. And so I don't know. I don't know if we're going to go into a Great Depression. I don't know if this would survive. All I'm saying, if there were something that would potentially be a threat in my mind, it would be something like that. And barring that, I'm kind of feeling really strong. I mean, how could we not? We survived a bear market once before. The game is still continuing, and it continues to be fun. It all feels like it's pointing towards strong things for the future, even if it is a bear market right now. And there is a ton of kind of naysaying out there still at this moment, maybe in particular. And I wonder, let me ask you both what your take is on that. Do you agree that currently there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, bad blood, anger, frustration, not just at crypto? Probably a lot of things are feeding into it. But specifically, I feel there is a lot of tension still in Splinterlands, even though the three of us are quite happy. We see success on the horizon. Do you agree that there's that sort of in the air or in the atmosphere at this moment, guys? And maybe Jim, I'll start with you. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I definitely know people aren't happy with some changes, right? from before we got SPS as a reward, I don't think people realized how much more rewards they were getting still to this day in comparison to when we were just getting DEC.
Yeah.
So when we first went to SPS, you were essentially getting like 7 times the amount of rewards, between 4 and 7%, I think.
Yeah.
Or 4 times and 7 times. And people have now been really upset that, all right, the change to the league, so it's going to cap at certain leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get a certain percentage of the monthly or the daily, whatever.
Yep.
And even going forward now, a lot of people are more upset with the change to what was that new proposal that they were talking about? Yeah, the maxed out cards depending on what league you're playing in.
Yeah, exactly.
So more and more people are just getting upset about it, and I've noticed some guild members also talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and aside from that, let's not even talk about the Archmage 35% fee that they have.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that's changing, and people just aren't happy with it.
Yeah. DarkestNyte, do you think it's that things are changing within the game? First of all, do you even agree that there's there is a bit of that kind of frustration in the atmosphere? But then if you do you have anything to maybe attribute it to? And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I do believe there is some frustration, but I don't perceive it to be overly pervasive. Right. So there are points of frustration, right? And again, rewards is something that I had actually an opportunity to talk with Matt about when I was in Vegas. But most people don't like radical change, right? It's a thing that makes us, uncomfortable and agitated until we can get used to and understand the change, right? And the more change you have, which we've had a lot in Splinterlands over the summer, right?
Yeah.
Just the fact that things are changing so rapidly, I can see the frustration from that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because after Santa and I talk about this, just we've had a lot go on over the summer, right? I mean, a lot of changes. And the reality is, I mean, a lot of changes have benefited me, right? Because I have a lot of the assets and things like that. So it hasn't been frustrating from that standpoint. But I can see if you're playing at lower levels, and when there are many more people playing at lower levels, right? I can see where they would be frustrated. And I sometimes come away concerned because those lower level players eventually will work their way up to the higher levels. It'll take everyone's journey is a little bit different. It'll take time. But if those people get frustrated early and bail out and go do something else, then we're going to be missing those people from the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand the frustration, and I think we should do a lot more to alleviate some of that frustration for the newer players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with a fair bit of what you say, especially around there is. I don't think you said first and foremost that you don't think it's like deeply pervasive, and I agree. I think there's a certain minority of people who are deeply upset, and then there are, because there always are. No matter what sort of spectrum of people you're interviewing, there's always a percentage of them that are deeply frustrated, and then there is some degree of like reasonable and realistic criticism that comes out of just the rapid amount of change. Even if ultimately we were able to objectively hold up the change and say, this is for the best. Even if I could, if I could objectively prove that in like a zeros and one fashion, it still has been a lot of change lately. And people, you're right. That's a factor. I think that's a big factor. I haven't really thought about it in that light before. I've been kind of thinking about it from like a case by basis, and every time thinking, wow, like why is this? Like for instance, just what was it at Splinterfest? Remember, guys, they announced that they were giving those significant discounts to Chaos Legion buyers with a ton of benefits if you bought now. And I've heard some degree of frustration just around, hey man, we put a serious money down a year ago or whatever it was, and we didn't get those bonuses. And
Yeah.
and I say to myself, on the one hand, I say to myself, wow, but we bought because we actually believed at that time that it could sell out, and we wanted to make sure we got our packs.
Yes.
And so in some sense, I got the benefit of that peace of mind of having acquired them in that window that I felt comfortable with. And yeah, I paid a premium for that, because remember, vouchers were way more expensive back then.
They were.
And so I guess my point is, on the one hand, I feel, these sorts of complaints are, there's kind of no point in holding them up. But then on the other point, when I step back and I hear what you just said about, there's been a lot of change lately. The rewards in bronze have been repeatedly revised and revised and revised. The card stuff, the collection power, the modern wild, the 1 league turning to 2 leagues. There has been a lot. And from that light, I can really see kind of just, guys, let us figure it out. What are we getting for how much investment? I need to feel the ground under my feet so that I can comfortably move forward. Some people are saying that, I think maybe.
Yeah. I've been in corporate America for a long time. And one of the things we constantly are mindful of is how much it costs to get a new customer, right? Someone to buy your service or your product. And then there is retention, right? And so Chatter can do all the things to get new players, but retention, it costs more to go find a new client than to retain the ones you already have. So I think the team is mindful of that, right? I had again chance to talk to Aggroed, but however, you can't satisfy everybody. And so I think they're actively making choices in terms of, okay, if we make this change, we're going to lose 5% of the player base or 10% of the player base, right? But you can only make that choice a couple of times, right? And then you're then left with either your hardcore, but again, the acquisition and retention of new players is absolutely critical to the success of the game. We want to see it grow.
Yes.
And I know that they're focused on it, right? I specifically, again, talked with Matt and Agrid about that. So I know they have their eye on the ball, but we're at the point where we have to make sacrifices. Some mistakes were made in the past, like, the airdrop, right? Pegging DC to the airdrop. That was a mistake, right? Obviously, it was a mistake, but they recognized it and they took action, right? And so as long as they do that, as long as they still do the town halls, right, and explain why they're doing the things that they're doing. I mean, we're all pretty smart, right? We can figure it out. And again, we'll talk about it and analyze it, and we'll talk about it in Mav chat and things like that. We may not all agree, but I think their transparency kind of helps us to navigate through some of those changes. So that's why I don't think the frustration is pervasive, because they are talking with us, right? They are communicating with us. And they are, this is their baby, right? They want to see it grow and do well. They're not gonna just frivolously make a whole lot of changes. And I definitely don't get that from Matt at all.
Yeah, Jim, I see 2 comments from Elephantium, and maybe I'll let you step in here. He says, many of these changes are made to hurt bots, but end up hurting human players that are actually working on their decks and love playing the game. I think there's some truth to that. And he goes on, it's been that way with most updates for almost a year now. That might be that sentence I might take some issue with, but let's carry on. He says also, the real question is if we even want to do advertising at a moment when new players' experience is as bad as it is. The very few actual players we are getting right now are lost, and the prices per new player is through the roof. Jim, comments on kind of that sentiment, and maybe too fast, too much, too soon, new player experience. Anything to say about those things?
So I was thinking about like the cost for a new player to come in, right?
Mhm.
So I went on Splinter Cards, looked at the set, and I'm like, all right, if you're going to buy 1 BCX of Chaos Legion, all commons, you're looking at $2. $15 for all the rares, $18 for all the epics. Like, that alone, and then we look at Rift Watchers, you can get all the commons and the rares at 1 BCX for $10.
All the commons
Then
and
we-
the rares. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, then we look at Rift Watch or the rewards for Chaos Legion, and the value for all the commons and all the rares is $0. So we're saying less, probably about $1 to get all those for that, and then all the epics for 1 BCX, $1 of the reward cards, and then $11 for all the legendary cards. Talking 1 BCX.
Mm. So like you're saying, you're outlining.
He's saying, okay. I thought he was saying for a new player to get in, how much does it cost? And it's like you can get so much stuff for like less than $50, which is the going rate of a game.
As long as you want that entry level experience of 1 BCX, and that's a fair point. It's a kind of a different point, but it's a fair point. Yeah.
But like just to get into the game, like it's not a lot. But
No.
I think he was saying that I just misunderstood what he was saying. He said he meant the cost for Splinterlands. We sell basically no new spellbooks. I got you now.
Yeah, I mean, that's important though. Like, it's a nuanced conversation because there's two ideas of what a new player even is. There's this idea of like a brand new player and what it would cost, like you were alluding to, what would it cost for somebody to start the game today? And if they really just wanted to play the game and explore Splinterlands and get to know it for a period of time, they could do so for $10 spellbook. Jim, and I don't know, you guys probably both met my buddy Mike, maybe, or at least Jim did. At Splinterfest, my buddy Mike came down to Vegas with me, had no experience of this game whatsoever. In fact, I had been talking to him about it for years. For years I've been telling him about it, and just not interested. Like, just he loves games. We play games together all the time, but just not interested. And then he comes to Splinterfest and he experiences, I don't know, maybe it was the community, maybe it was, he didn't really tell me what, but on Sunday he starts playing it at one of the computer terminals, and then he just buys a spellbook, and he played from, I'm going to say he played from noon till 10 p.m. without stopping. And
dude, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. And I guess my point is, we still have room to attract people at the basis level, like the sort of that entry level, like, hey, come have fun with this thing. Forget about what you could earn. Forget about putting a bunch of money into it. Forget about what the return looks like. Just come pay a $10 spellbook and have fun with this thing, because it actually is a fun game, apart from all of the game mechanics around economy. And I think if that is true to you, then that almost needs to by itself be your motivation, because I think we get into the weeds when we start to say to ourselves, we start to wonder, like, oh man, like I put in 500, 600, 1,000, I put in, I bought this, I bought that, and it's gone down, or these rewards were X and now they're X -1. Like it's lower than it was, a week ago or whatever. Even if it was higher than it was, 6 months ago, it's still, like I said earlier, I want to know where I stand. I want firm foundation under me. But it's like, if we just go back to this square one and say, is it fun? And can we enjoy it? Then I think that's what I did. Like for 4 years ago, when there was no profitability here at all, I just said to myself, I like this game, and I actually think these assets could be worth more in 4 years. And here we are. And I still think that's true. I actually think that story will continue to persist even now in 4 years, like the next bull run, whenever that happens to be. And I don't know. I guess if you doubt any of that, I just feel like maybe this isn't the game, or just stop with the investing and just start with the enjoying of the entertainment.
Oh yeah. So I would say we're in the middle of a bear market now, right? And the fact that we were able to get almost 500 people to join us in Vegas to spend money, right, on air flights, on hotels, food, all of these things that we really won't really fundamentally benefit from. We did
Yeah.
that all in the bear market, right? People love the game. People are still buying assets in a bear market. Imagine what will happen during the bull run.
Yeah.
Right. We're in the asset accumulation when all the assets are super cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen this before, right? What happens when 500,000 people come into the game and all want, to be competitive?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not enough cards for that, right? Like, every day when I bought some Rift Watcher cards today, right? And I'm like, there's not enough to max out for everybody. There's not enough of these specific assets. And it's just wild to me that, yeah, it's frustration, but I think part of it comes from the fact that we're in a bear market as well, right? If we were in a bull market right now, I think there will be far less frustration.
Yeah.
Uh,
I feel strongly that that's true. And
yeah,
I think I would add to everything you just said, one idea, and then Jim, I want to hear your thoughts. Like, we just wait for the next bull run is so true. But then and yes, it's so true that excitement we just saw with Splinterfest is indicative of something special because we are in the middle of a bear market. But then add to that whole conversation this new idea that was revealed at Splinterfest about how we're going to do these 9-month windows for the pack releases, and then a 3-month no window for packs. That's another one of those moments, those another one of those facts that is stirring the community in both good and negative emotions. But here's my take on it in 5 or 10 seconds. I mean, the last time we didn't have any packs on the market, we saw card prices shoot through the roof, like
Absolutely
moon mission.
ridiculous.
And what does that do for then? What does that do for the excitement around the game? Because wow, my packs or my card assets have gone up 10x, 20x, 100x. It starts to draw in new people because they're like, they FOMO in, and that's not a good thing. I'm not saying I want to trick people into playing my game. What I'm saying is that's what new people do. They won't come here right now when they should, and they should see the value in the diamond in the rough. They will come here in droves when the appreciation has already come. And I'll be doing videos just in case anybody wants to like take this out of context. At that moment, I'll be doing videos saying, guys, like, be careful. These prices have gone up a lot, but that's just going to be the way it happens. It's always the way it happens. That's how blow off tops happen. And my point is that sort of excitement comes when we run out of packs. And so I think not only do we have the bull market to look forward to, we have this new mechanism where every 9 months we're going to go for 3 months without packs. And I think it's going to create some of the similar exuberance that we saw one time before when we had no cards to claim. And, remember when you'd get paid for a pack and it would be in DC and it was like, 4,000 DC or whatever that was. And DC had gone up. And so Jim, talk to me about the bull market and how that's going to, I guess, transform these attitudes. And also what you think about that 3-month window or hiatus between pack sales and how that might feed into it, because maybe it means we're not even having to wait till the next bull market. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's so much easier for everyone to be happy when we're in a bull market and everyone's making so much more money, right?
Yeah.
I think it definitely is easier at that point. People are at a point right now, if they got in around that time frame, like for me, I'm down, I want to say like 60%, or I'm down 40%, my bad. Down 40% and in my investment, but I'm not worried about it because I have faith in the team, I have faith in the game. I really think this is going to go places.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are down either around the same amount as me, or they could be down even more. If they got in when the SPS was like 80 cents, they're down a lot, right? In comparison.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're upset. They don't want to be earning less rewards. And I completely understand.
Yeah, so true.